Hello everybody, I'm back. Me and my buddy Noodle, or Rocket, whatever, I call him both, so he'll answer to either one. Yeah, we're excited for this episode. This is a good one, man. I did a lot of research on this. There's a lot of years of different stuff to sort through. You're talking about, 45 years of active investigation on this case? Or more. Actually, it might be more now. I haven't really looked at that to be specific about it. But anyhow, long story short, we're looking at we're gonna do us an episode on D.B. Cooper today. And I hope that you guys are happy with the findings and everything that I've done. I mean, I was really meticulous with it. I went through a lot. So, it's all for entertainment purposes, for everybody's entertainment. Let's decipher this. Let's figure it out. Let's see what we can come to a conclusion. What do we think? Comment, like, subscribe, do what you have to do. If you have comments on, even if it's a different episode, what you want to see, what you'd like to hear about, what you'd like to see me research about, feel free. I mean, that's what this is about. Hey, we're like-minded people. Well, maybe not completely like-minded. Everybody has their own mind. But the point is, this community that I want to try and establish here on this channel is going to be, we're all going to try and be open-minded. We may not have the same point of views or whatever, but at least try to be open-minded. That's all I ask. Hey, let's be open-minded. Because we can't. There's a lot of things we don't know. Absolutely not. Tell him, Noodle. Tell him, buddy. Be open-minded, right? That's right. That's my man. That's my boy right there. He's my dude right there. But yeah, everybody just think about it. Stay open-minded. I'll be right back. I think I might have to put him back up. All right, everybody, I'm back. I had to put my co-host up. Anyhow, D.B. Cooper. Now, I don't know if any of you understand or if you even know anything about this certain case or not. Now, D.B. Cooper was a man that went on an airline and hijacked the airline. He got away. He had a ransom amount. It's more intricate than that, but this is the gist of it. Okay. He hijacked an airline. He got a bunch of money. And he hasn't been seen. He's vanished. Gone. And we're going to go through the theories, the stipulations. We're going to go through all the different clues and the this and the that, everything that could have happened here. Okay. I was pretty meticulous on this one. So, because this story itself, it intrigued me. I got to say, for years. It's quite interesting how the whole scenario played out and how it was executed, how everything could have happened. So, without further ado, let's talk about D.B. Cooper. All right, I'm going to start it off here. I got a lot. D.B. Cooper is an unidentified man who hijacked Northwest Orient Airlines Flight 305, a Boeing 727 aircraft in the United States airspace on November 24th, 1971. During the flight from Portland, Oregon to Seattle, Washington, he told the flight attendant he was armed with a bomb. He demanded $200,000 in ransom money, equivalent to about $1.4 thousand today, or $1.4 million, today. and requested 4 parachutes upon landing in Seattle. After releasing the passengers in Seattle, the hijacker instructed the flight crew to refuel the aircraft and begin a second flight to Mexico City, with a refueling stop in Reno, Nevada. About 30 minutes after taking off from Seattle, he opened the aft door, deployed the staircase, and parachuted into the night over southwestern Washington. He has never been found or conclusively identified. Other names, Dan Cooper. Other names he had is Dan Cooper. Also, there were 43 occupants on board. There were 37 passengers and 6 crew members. Everyone was accounted for except D.B. Cooper. In 1980, a small portion of the ransom money was found along the banks of the Columbia River. The discovery of the money renewed public interest in the mystery, but yielded no additional information about the man's identity or fate. And the remaining money was never recovered. The hijacker identified himself as Dan Cooper, but a reporter confused his name with another suspect, and the man subsequently became known as D.B. Cooper. Okay, for 45 years after the incident, the FBI maintained an active investigation and built an extensive case file, but ultimately did not reach a definitive conclusion. The crime remains the only unsolved case of air piracy in the history of commercial aviation. The FBI speculates Cooper did not survive the jump for several reasons. Number 1, inclement weather during that day. 2, his lack of proper knowledge of his landing area. I jumped up. His lack of proper skydiving equipment. Number 3, the heavily wooded area he jumped into. Number 4, his lack of knowledge of his landing area. And number 5, disappearance of remaining ransom money. Suggests it was never spent. In July 2016, the FBI officially suspended active investigation of the Northwest hijacking case. Although reporters, enthusiasts, investigators, and amateur sleuths continue to pursue numerous theories for Cooper's identity, success, and fate. Cooper's hijacking and several imitators in the following year led to rapidly making major changes for commercial aviation and stricter airport security measures. Metal detectors were installed, baggage inspection became mandatory, and passengers who paid cash for tickets on the day of departure were selected for additional scrutiny. All due to this man. Think about that. This was a big deal. This was a big case, which is why there's a lot of notes. So let's get going, because this is going to be a while. It's going to take I might have to do this in 2 sessions. I don't know. We're going to have to see, though. Anyway, where did I leave it off? Oh, the scrutiny. Okay. Boeing 727s were retrofitted with eponymous Cooper vanes, specifically designed to prevent the aft air staircase from being lowered in flight due to that case. By 1973, aircraft hijacking incidents had decreased as the new security measures successfully dissuaded would-be hijackers whose only motive was money. Makes sense. They really stepped their game up after this case. I can guarantee you that. On Thanksgiving Eve, November 24th, 1971, a man carrying a black case approached the flight. Now we're going into the beginning of this. We're going to go ahead and do that. On Thanksgiving, November 24th, 1971, a man carrying a black case approached the flight counter of Northwest Orient Airlines in Portland International Airport. Using cash, the man bought a one-way ticket on Flight 305, a 30-minute trip north to Seattle Airport. On the ticket, the man listed his name as Dan Cooper. Eyewitnesses described him as a white male in his mid-40s with dark hair and brown eyes, wearing a black or brown business suit, a white shirt, a black tie, a black raincoat, and brown shoes, carrying a briefcase and a brown paper bag. Cooper boarded Flight 305, a Boeing 727-100, FAA registration, and 467 US. Just to be precise. Told you I was thorough. Anyways, Cooper took seat 18E in the last row and ordered a drink, bourbon and 7-Up, with a crew of 6 and 37 passengers aboard. Flight 305 left Portland on schedule at 2:50 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Shortly after takeoff, Cooper handed a note to flight attendant Florence Schaffner, sitting in the jump seat directly behind him. Assuming the note was a lonely businessman's phone number, she dropped the note unopened in her purse. Cooper then leaned toward her and whispered, "Miss, you better look at that note. I have a bomb." Schaffner opened the note. In all capital, neatly printed letters with a felt pen, Cooper had written, "Miss, I have a bomb in my briefcase, and I want you to sit with me." Schaffner returned the note to Cooper, sat down as requested, and quietly asked to see it. He opened his briefcase, and she saw 2 rows of 4 red cylinders, which she assumed was dynamite. Attached to the cylinders were a wire and a large cylindrical battery. Cooper then closed the briefcase and told Schaffner his demands. She wrote a note with Cooper's demands, brought it to the cockpit, and informed the flight crew of the situation. Captain William A. Scott directed her to remain in the cockpit for the remainder of the flight and take notes of events as they happened. He then contacted Northwest Flight Operations in Minnesota and relayed his demands. He requested $200,000 in a knapsack by 5 p.m. He wants 2 front parachutes and 2 back parachutes, or 2 mains and 2 reserves. He wants the money in negotiable American currency by requesting 2 sets of parachutes. He implied that he planned to take a hostage with him, thereby discouraging authorities from supplying non-functional equipment. With Schaffner in the cockpit, flight attendant Tina Mucklow sat next to Cooper to act as a liaison between him and flight crew in the cockpit. He then made additional demands. Number 1, upon landing in Seattle, the fuel trucks must meet the plane and all passengers must remain seated while she brought the money aboard. He said he would then release the passengers after he had the money. The last items brought aboard would be the 4 parachutes. Seems like he's got his stuff figured out, huh? Well, Captain Scott informed Seattle Tacoma Airport Air Traffic Control of the situation, who contacted local police and the FBI. The passengers were told their arrival in Seattle would be delayed because of a minor mechanical difficulty. Donald Nyrop, the president of Northwest Orient, authorized payment of the ransom and ordered all employees to cooperate with the hijacker and comply with his demands. For approximately 2 hours, Flight 305 circled Puget Sound to give Seattle police and FBI sufficient time to assemble Cooper's ransom money and parachutes and mobilize emergency personnel. During the flight from Portland to Seattle, Cooper demanded Mucklow remain by his side at all times. She later said that appeared familiar. Appeared familiar with the local. That he appeared familiar with the local terrain. Sorry about that. While looking out the window, he remarked, "Looks like Tacoma down there," as the aircraft flew above it. He also correctly noted McChord Air Force Base was only a 20-minute drive from Seattle-Tacoma Airport. She later described his demeanor. He was not nervous. He's relaxed. He seemed rather nice, and he was not cruel or nasty. While the plane circled Seattle, Mucklow talked to Cooper and asked why he picked Northwest Airlines to hijack. He laughed and replied, "It's not because I have a grudge." Then explained that the flight simply suited his needs. He asked where she was from. She answered that she was originally from PA but was living in Minneapolis at the time. He responded that Minnesota was very nice country. She asked where he was from, but he became upset and refused to answer. He asked if she smoked and offered her a cigarette. She replied that she had quit but accepted the cigarette. I can imagine she probably needed one at that point. So, here we go. FBI records noted that Cooper briefly spoke to an unidentified passenger while on the plane over Seattle. In his interview with FBI agents, passenger George Labissonier said he visited the restroom directly behind Cooper on several occasions. After one visit, George... Passenger wearing a cowboy hat. After one visit, George said the path to his seat was blocked by a passenger wearing a cowboy hat. Asking Miss Mucklow about the mechanical issue delaying them. George said Cooper was initially amused by the interaction, then became irritated and told the man to return to his seat, but the cowboy ignored Cooper and continued to question her. George claims he eventually persuaded him to return to his seat. Mucklow's version of the interaction is different from George's. She said a passenger approached her and asked for a sports magazine to read because he was bored. Sorry about that. She and the passenger moved to an area directly behind Cooper where the passenger and her looked for magazines. The passenger took a copy of The New Yorker and returned to his seat. When Mucklow returned to the seat with Cooper, he said, "If that is a Sky Marshal, I don't want any more of that." Despite his brief interaction with Cooper, the cowboy was not interviewed by the FBI and was never identified. Isn't that something? The $200,000 ransom was received from Seattle First National Bank in a bag weighing approximately 19 pounds. The money, 10,000 unmarked $20 bills, most of which serial numbers beginning with L indicating issuance by the Federal Reserve Bank of San Francisco. Seattle police obtained 2 front reserve parachutes from local skydiving school and 2 back main parachutes from a local stunt pilot. Around 5:24 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Captain Scott was informed the parachutes had been delivered to the airport and notified Cooper they would be landing soon. At 5:46 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Flight 305 landed at Seattle-Tacoma Airport with Cooper's permission. Scott parked the aircraft on a partially lit runway away from the main terminal. Cooper demanded only one representative of airline approach the plane with parachutes and money, and only entrance and exit would be through the aircraft's front door via mobile air stairs. So he was limiting his chance of getting caught up and somebody popping him on. Northwest Orient's Seattle operations manager Al Lee was designated to be the courier. To avoid possibility that Cooper might mistake Lee's airline uniform for that of a law enforcement officer, he changed into civilian clothes for the task. With the passengers remaining seated, and a ground crew attached the mobile staircase per Cooper's directive. Mucklows exited the aircraft through the front door and retrieved the ransom money. When she returned, she carried the money bag past the seated passengers to Cooper in the last row. And let's see here. Cooper then agreed to release the passengers. As they debarked, Cooper inspected the money. In an attempt to break the tension, Mucklow jokingly asked Cooper if she could have some of the money. Cooper readily agreed and handed her a packet of bills. But she immediately returned the money and explained accepting gratitudes was against company policy. She said he had tried to tip her and the other two flight attendants earlier in the flight with money from his own pocket, but they had each declined due to policy because they weren't allowed to tip. With the passengers safely debarked, only Cooper and the 6 crew members remain on board. In accordance with Cooper's demand, Mucklow made 3 trips outside the aircraft to retrieve the parachutes, which she brought to him in the rear of the plane. While Mucklow brought aboard the parachutes, Schaffner asked Cooper if she could retrieve her purse, stored in a compartment behind his seat. Cooper agreed and told her, "I won't bite you." Flight attendant Alice Hancock then asked Cooper if flight attendants could leave, to which Cooper replied, whatever you girls would like. So Hancock and Schaffner debarked. When Mucklow brought the last parachute to Cooper, she gave him printed instructions for using the parachutes, but Cooper said he didn't need them. A problem with the refueling process caused a delay, so a second truck and then a third were brought to the aircraft to complete the refueling. During the delay, Mucklow said Cooper complained the money was delivered in a cloth bag instead of a knapsack, as he had directed, and he now had to improvise a new way to transport the money. So he's getting a little fired up about that, which I guess that would be frustrating for you in that kind of situation. So using a pocket knife, Cooper cut the canopy from one of the reverse parachutes and stuffed some of the money into the empty parachute bag. An FAA official requested a face-to-face meeting with Cooper aboard the aircraft, but Cooper denied the request. So Cooper became impatient, saying, "This shouldn't take so long, and let's get this show on the road." He then gave the cockpit crew his flight plan and directives, a southeast course toward Mexico City at the minimum airspeed possible without stalling the aircraft, approximately 100 knots, which would be 185 kilometers per hour or 115 miles per hour, at a maximum 10,000 feet or 3,000 meters altitude. Cooper also specified the landing gear must remain deployed. The wing flaps must be lowered 15 degrees, and the cabin must remain unpressurized. First Officer William J. Radizak informed Cooper that this configuration limited the aircraft's range to about 1,000 miles or 1,600 kilometers, so a second refueling would be necessary before entering Mexico. Cooper and the crew discussed options and agreed on Reno Tahoe International Airport as the refueling stop. Cooper further directed the aircraft take off with the rear exit door open and its air stair extended. Northwest's home office objected that this was unsafe. Cooper countered, saying, "It can be done. Do it," but did not argue the point and said he would lower the staircase once they they were airborne. He demanded Mucklow remain aboard to assist the operation. Sorry about that. Around 7:40 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Flight 305 took off with only Cooper, Mucklow, Captain Scott, First Officer Radizak, and Flight Engineer Harold E. Anderson aboard. Now, two F-106 fighters from McChord Air Force Base and a Lockheed T-33 trainer diverted from an unrelated Air National Guard mission and followed the 727. All three jets maintained S flight patterns to stay behind the slow-moving 727 and out of Cooper's view. After takeoff, Cooper told Mucklow to lower the aft stairs. She told him and the crew she feared being sucked out of the plane, which is a very valid fear. The flight crew suggested she come to the cockpit and retrieve an emergency rope with which she could tie herself to a seat. Cooper rejected the suggestion, stating he did not want her going up front or the flight crew coming back to the cabin. She continued to express her fear to him and asked him to cut some cord from one of the parachutes to create a safety line for her. He said he would lower the stairs himself, instructed her to go to the cockpit, close the curtain partition between coach and first class sections, and not return. Before she left, Mucklow begged Cooper, "Please, please, take the bomb with you." Cooper responded he would either disarm it or take it with him. As she walked to the cockpit and turned to close the curtain partition, she saw Cooper standing in the aisle, tying what appeared to be the money bag around his waist. From takeoff to when Mucklow entered the cockpit, 4 to 5 minutes had elapsed. For the rest of the flight to Reno, Mucklow remained in the cockpit and was the last person to see the hijacker. Around 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, a cockpit warning light flashed, indicating the aft stairs had been deployed. The pilot used the cabin intercom to ask Cooper if he needed assistance, but Cooper's last message was a one-word reply: no. The crew's ears popped from the drop in cabin air pressure from the stairs being opened. At approximately 8:13 p.m., the aircraft's tail section suddenly pitched upward, forcing the pilots to trim and return the aircraft to level flight. In his interview with FBI co-pilot Bill Radizak, said the sudden upward pitch occurred while the flight was near the suburbs north of Portland. With the cabin door open and the staircase deployed, the flight crew remained in the cockpit, unsure if Cooper was still aboard. Mucklow used the cabin intercom to inform Cooper they were approaching Reno and he needed to raise the stairs so the plane could land safely. She repeated her request as the pilots made the final approach to land, but neither Mucklow nor the flight crew received a reply from him. At 11:02 p.m., with the aft stairs still deployed, Flight 305 landed at Reno Airport. Federal agents, state troopers, sheriff deputies, and Reno police established a perimeter around the aircraft, but fearing the hijacker and the bomb were still aboard. They did not approach the plane. So, now, Captain Scott searched the cabin, confirmed Cooper was no longer aboard, and after 30 minutes, searched an FBI after 30 minutes, an FBI bomb squad declared the cabin safe. In addition to 66 latent fingerprints aboard the plane, FBI agents recovered Cooper's black clip-on tie, his tie clip, and 2 of the 4 parachutes, one of which had been opened and had 3 shroud lines cut from the canopy. FBI agents interviewed eyewitnesses in Portland, Seattle, and Reno and developed a series of composite sketches. Local police and FBI agents immediately began questioning people, acting on the possibility the hijacker may have used his real name or the same alias in a previous crime. Portland police discovered and interviewed a Portland citizen named D.B. Cooper. The Portland Cooper had a minor police record, but was quickly eliminated as a suspect. In his rush to meet a deadline, reporter James Long confused the man with the name used by the hijacker. United Press International Wire Service reporter Clyde Jabin republished Long's error, and other media sources repeated the error. The hijacker's pseudonym became D.B. Cooper. Due to the number of variables and parameters, precisely defining the area to search was difficult. Okay, this is the search area. The jet's airspeed estimates varied. The environmental conditions along the flight path varied with the aircraft's location and altitude. And only Cooper knew how long he stayed in free fall before pulling his ripcord. The Air Force F-106 pilots neither saw anyone jumping from the airliner, nor did their radar detect a deployed parachute. Moreover, a black-clad individual jumping into the moonless night would be difficult to see, especially given the limited visibility or cloud cover and lack of ground lightning. The T-33 pilots did not make visual contact with the 727. But on December 6, 1971, FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover approved the use of an Air Force SR-71 Blackbird to retrace and photograph Flight 305's flight path and attempt to locate the items Cooper carried during his jump. The SR-71 made 5 flights to retrace Flight 305's route, but due to poor visibility, the photography attempts were unsuccessful. In an experimental recreation, flying the same aircraft used in the hijacking in the same flight configuration, FBI agents pushed a 200-pound sled out of the open air stair and were able to reproduce the upward motion of the tail section and brief change in cabin pressure, described by the flight crew at 8:13 p.m. Initial extrapolations placed Cooper's landing zone within an area on the southernmost outreach of Mount St. Helens, a few miles southeast of Ariel, Washington, near Lake Merwin, an artificial lake formed by Adam on the Lewis River. Search efforts focused on Clark and Cowlitz counties, encompassing the terrain immediately south and north of the Lewis River in southwest Washington. Federal agents and sheriff deputies searched large areas of the heavily wooded terrain on foot and by helicopter. Door-to-door searches of local farmhouses were also carried out. Other search parties ran patrol boats along Lake Merwin and Yale Lake, the reservoir immediately to its east. Neither Cooper nor any of the equipment he presumably carried was found. Using fixed-wing aircraft and helicopters from the Oregon Army National Guard, the FBI coordinated an aerial search along the entire flight path, known as Victor 23 in U.S. aviation terminology, but Vector 23 in most Cooper literature. From Seattle to Reno is where that's from. Although numerous broken treetops and several pieces of plastic and other objects resembling parachute canopies were sighted and investigated, nothing relevant to the hijacking was found. Shortly after the spring thaw in early 1972, teams of FBI agents, aided by some 200 soldiers from Fort Lewis, along with U.S. Air Force personnel, National Guardsmen, and civilian volunteers, conducted another thorough ground search of Clark and Cowlitz counties for 18 days in March, and then another 18 days in April. Electronic Explorations Company, a marine salvage firm, used a submarine to search the 200-foot depths of Lake Merwin. 2 local women stumbled upon a skeleton in an abandoned structure in Clark County. It was later identified as the remains of Barbara Ann Derry, a teenage girl who had been abducted and murdered several weeks before. This plot's thickening, ain't it? Anyways, just 1 second. Okay. Barbara Ann Derry, a teenage girl who had been abducted and murdered several weeks before. Now, this is crazy. This is just starting to unfold in some wild ways, isn't it? There's a lot of craziness in this. Ultimately, the extensive search and recovery operation uncovered no significant material evidence related to the hijacking. Okay? Based on early computer projections produced for the Federal Bureau, Cooper's drop zone was first estimated to be between Ariel Dam to the north and the town of Battleground, Washington, to the south. In March 1972, the Federal Bureau concluded their original calculations were incorrect. After a joint investigation with Northwest Orient Airlines and the Air Force determined Cooper probably jumped over the town La Center, Washington. In 2019, the Federal Bureau released a report indicating that about 3 hours after Cooper jumped, a burglary was reported at a small grocery store near Hyson, Washington, an unincorporated community located within the calculated drop zone that Northwest Airlines presented to the Federal Bureau. The burglar was noted by the FBI to have taken only survival items such as beef jerky and gloves. Could that be our guy? Could be. A month after the hijacking, the Federal Bureau distributed lists of the ransom serial numbers to financial institutions, casinos, racetracks, and other businesses that routinely conducted large cash transactions, and to law enforcement agencies around the world. Northwest Orient offered a reward of 15% of the recovered money to a maximum of $25,000. In early 1972, U.S. Attorney General John Mitchell released the serial numbers to the public. 2 men used counterfeit $20 bills printed with Cooper's serial numbers to swindle $30,000 from a Newsweek reporter named Carl Fleming in exchange for an interview with a man they falsely claimed was the hijacker. That's pretty brazen. Now it's getting crazy because you got nuts just jumping in the mix. In early 1973, with the ransom money still missing, the Oregon Journal republished the serial numbers and offered $1,000 to the first person to turn in a ransom bill to the newspaper or any Federal Bureau field office. In Seattle, the Post influencer made a similar offer with a $5,000 reward. The offers remained in effect until Thanksgiving of 1974, and though several near matches were reported, no genuine bills were found. In 1975, Northwest Orient's insurer, Global Indemnity Company, compiled with an order from Minnesota Supreme Court and paid the airlines a $180,000 claim on the ransom money. Okay. Later analysis indicated that the original landing zone estimate was inaccurate. Captain Scott, who was flying the aircraft manually because of Cooper's speed and altitude demands, later determined his flight path was farther east than initially thought. Additional data from a variety of sources, in particular Continental Airlines pilot Tom Bohan, who was flying 4 minutes behind Flight 305, indicated the wind direction factored into drop zone calculations had been wrong, possibly as much as 80 degrees. This and other supplemental data suggested the actual drop zone was southeast of the original estimate, in the drainage area of the Washougal River. Federal agent Ralph Himmelsbach wrote, "I have to confess, if I were going to look for Cooper, I would head for the Washougal." So that was his assumption as to where it would have been. The Washougal Valley and its surroundings have been searched repeatedly in subsequent years. To date, no discoveries traceable to the hijacking has been reported. Some investigators have speculated that the 1980 eruption of Mount St. Helens could have obliterated any remaining physical clues. That's pause for thought, isn't it? It's no wonder he never spent the money, if that's the case. All right. Don't want to hold us up too much. Let's continue on. On July 8th, 2016, the Federal Bureau announced active investigation of the Cooper case was suspended, citing the need to focus investigative resources and manpower on issues of higher and more urgent priority. Local field offices would continue to accept any legitimate physical evidence related to specifically to the parachutes or to the ransom money that may emerge in the future. The 66-volume case. That's how big this case is, people. Okay? Now understand, I feel like I didn't research enough on this. 66-volume case file. Think about that. That's an encyclopedia, a thesaurus set. You know, this is crazy. But it was compiled over the 45-year course of the investigation, and it would be preserved for historical purposes at the Federal Bureau headquarters in Washington, D.C., and on the Federal Bureau website. All of the evidence is open to the public, so you guys can research this to your heart's content. You know, you can, hey, if you just want to find, you find something wrong and you want to shame me for it, have at it. Trust me, there's a lot of information in here. And I'll be glad to accept that I was wrong or I did whatever. But the point is, we're all here to learn. This is my point, just to teach, to learn. You know, there's stuff I've learned just doing this story. I had no clue of half this stuff. You don't know until you find out. And I hope you guys are finding out. So, let's continue on. All of the evidence is open to the public. Like I said, the crime remains the only unsolved case of air piracy in commercial aviation history. And why is that? Because after this crime, all sorts of safeguards was implemented and put in place. Metal detectors, they had new shrouds they put under where the stairways were so people couldn't run the stairway down if they tried to hijack the plane after this. There's a lot of different things that they threw into it. But they acted quick, which was good. You know, I mean, people don't want to have to deal with that stuff. I mean, but we still go with craziness now, still to this day on airlines. I mean, it's just crazy. It's insane. And it's very scary. It's very scary because you feel like you have no control when you're up in a plane thousands of miles up in the air. And something crazy like that would happen. It's hard to say how you'd feel unless you're in that situation yourself. Because at that point, it's the fight or flight response. It's survival instinct. What do you do? You know, but anyways, let's continue on. During their forensic search of the aircraft, federal agents found 4 major pieces of evidence. Okay, they found 4 major pieces of evidence, each with a direct physical link to Cooper: a black clip-on tie, a mother-of-pearl tie clip, a hair from Cooper's headrest, and 8 filter-tipped Raleigh cigarette butts from the armrest ashtray. The black clip-on tie was found to be sold exclusively at JCPenney stores, but was discontinued in 1968. Okay. So it's a few years old tie that he had on, evidently. By late 2007, the Federal Bureau built a partial DNA profile from samples found on Cooper's tie in 2001. However, the Federal Bureau also acknowledged no evidence linked Cooper to the source of the DNA sample. What? What? Hold on. Let me read this one more time. Let's all try to grasp this stuff, because I'm still trying to grasp it too. However, the Federal Bureau also acknowledged no evidence linked Cooper to the source of the DNA sample. Basically, they don't even know if that's his damn hair on the headrest. They don't know if that's his cigarette butts in the damn ashtray. I mean, you know what the airline lady said, and I'm sure she didn't lie if he was smoking. Obviously not. But how's it coming up inconclusive that they can't even connect him to the DNA profile? And they had a damn hair. A hair. Come on now. What? I'm sorry. I got to freak out a little bit on this, because it's just too much. This dude comes up in the plane, right? He's like freaking James Bond coming up in this joint. He's straight up legit, no fear whatsoever. Calm, cool, and collective, like you wouldn't believe, with his sunglasses on, his hat on, little whatever hat he had on, fedora hat, his briefcase, comes strutting up in there like the cock of the walk. You know what I mean? Straight up tells this lady on the airline, hey, you might want to check that note out. I got a bomb. Come on. like you're saying, hey, I got a glass of I got a can of Pepsi here. Come on now. What do you guys think? So far, what do you guys think about this? Is this man like, was he, like, there's different theories you could have. Was he hired to do some kind of like a corporate espionage type deal? Was he there to try and damage the airlines? Was he there to just rob them because he needed money? I highly doubt it. Because first of all, this man seems like he's very smart, very intelligent. He's not stupid. And he knew taking that money, they're going to track that money. Which is why in 45 years of a case, the money has never been spent. It was never probably about the money. It was a statement he was making. This is my opinion. This was a statement this man made to prove to them that their security is absolute crap and that somebody could get through their guard and actually do this kind of crap. I think that's what it was. My point, that's one of the ideas I have anyways, was the ex-military, you know, because of some of the knowledge and stuff. First of all, they're talking about this man not having knowledge about parachutes and blah, blah, blah. First off, how do you know he's not throwing you off saying, hey, man, he took the dummy parachute, right? First off, how do you know he didn't take the dummy parachute, do something with the other, the internals and crap, and just use the other bag for more money? Very possible. He could have easily done that, because he probably knew it was a dummy parachute. If he told the waitress he didn't need instructions for the parachutes, obviously this man knows a little bit about parachutes. So if he knows about parachutes, let's come to a conclusion. what does that narrow it down to? It narrows it down to him either being ex-military or a skydiver or stunt diver or something like that in that line of reasoning. Narrows it down pretty quick, doesn't it? So gnaw on that for a minute. And then we'll continue on with the rest of this information I got. I'm sorry it's so fact-oriented, but I wanted to be precise for you guys. I'm not going to cut you guys short. I'm not going to do it. I mean, there was even more information. I just couldn't do all of it. I may have to do a second. We'll see if I'm going to do a second podcast on this one. I don't know, but we'll see. I'll see what else, other information that I dredge up and find out. But let's continue on, because this is getting long. It's almost getting close to an hour, and I still got a lot of notes. So let's read through this real quick, and then we'll go ahead and do a quick overview. Does it sound good? Crap. Okay. All right. It was said that, excuse me. Hold on. Heartburn. It was said that a federal special agent, Fred Gutt, or federal agent, special agent Fred Gutt said the tie had 2 small DNA samples and 1 large sample. It's difficult to draw firm conclusions from these samples. The FBI also made public a file of previously unreleased evidence, including Cooper's ticket, composite sketches, fact sheets, and posted a request for information about Cooper's identification. In March of 2009, a group of citizen sleuths using GPS imagery and other technologies unavailable in 1971 began reinvestigating components of the case. Known as the Cooper Research Team, the group included paleontologist Tom Kay from the Burke Museum of Natural History and Culture in Seattle, scientific illustrator Carol Abrazinkas, and metallurgist Alan Stone. Although CRT obtained little new information about the buried ransom money or Cooper's landing zone, they found, analyzed, and identified hundreds of organic and metallic particles on Cooper's tie. Using electron microscopy, the CRT identified Lycopodium spores, the source of which was likely pharmaceutical. The team also found minute particles of unalloyed titanium on the tie, along with particles of bismuth, antimony, cerium, strontium, sulfide aluminum, and titanium antimony alloys. The metal and rare earth particles suggested Cooper may have worked for Boeing or another aeronautical engineering firm at a chemical manufacturing plant or at a metal fabrication and production facility. The material with the most significance, explained Kay, was the unalloyed titanium. In the 1970s, the use of pure titanium was rare and would only be used in aircraft fabrication facilities or at chemical companies combining titanium and aluminum to store extremely corrosive substances. The cerium and strontium sulfide were used by Boeing's supersonic transport development project and by Portland factories in which cathode ray tubes were manufactured, such as Teledyne and Tektronix. Cooper researcher Eric Eulis has speculated the titanium antimony alloys are linked to REMCRU Titanium Incorporated, a metals manufacturer and Boeing contractor. FBI agents found 2 hair samples in Cooper's seat, a single strand of limb hair on the seat and a single strand brown Caucasian head hair on the headrest. The limb hair was destroyed after the FBI crime laboratory determined the sample lacked enough unique microscopic characteristic to be useful. However, the FBI crime laboratory determined the head hair was suitable for future comparison and preserved the hair on a microscopic slide. During their attempts to build Cooper's DNA profile in 2002, the FBI discovered the hair sample had been lost in the armrest ashtray. FBI agents found 8 Raleigh cigarette butts. These were sent to FBI crime laboratory to search for fingerprints, but investigators were unable to find fingerprints and returned the butts to the Las Vegas field office. In 1998, the FBI sought to extract DNA from the cigarette butts, but discovered the butts had been destroyed while in custody of the Las Vegas field office. On February 10, 1980, 8-year-old Brian Ingram was vacationing with his family on the Columbia River at a beachfront known as Tina Bar, about 9 miles downstream from Vancouver, Washington, and 20 miles southwest of Ariel. As he raked the sandy riverbank to build a campfire, he uncovered 3 packets of the ransom cash, totaling around $5,800. The bills had disintegrated from lengthy exposure to the elements, but were still bundled in rubber bands. FBI technicians confirmed that the money was indeed a portion of the ransom. 2 packets of $120 bills each, and a third packet of 90, all arranged in the same order as when given to Cooper. The discovery launched several new rounds of conjecture and ultimately raised more questions than it answered. Initial statements by investigators and scientific consultants were founded on the assumption the bundled bills washed freely into the Columbia River from one of its many connecting tributaries. An Army Corps engineer hydrologist noted the bills had disintegrated in a rounded fashion and were matted together, indicating they had been deposited by river action as opposed to having been deliberately buried. That conclusion, if correct, supported the hypothesis that Cooper had not landed near Lake Merwin nor any tributary of the Lewis River, which feeds into the Columbia well downstream from Tina Bar. It also lent credence to supplemental speculation the drop zone was near the Washougal River, which merges with the Columbia upstream from the site. The free-floating hypothesis presented difficulties. It did not explain the 10 bills missing from one packet, nor was there an explanation for how the 3 packets would have remained together after separating from the rest of the money. Physical evidence was incompatible with geological evidence. Himmelsbach wrote, free-floating bundles would have washed up on the bank within a couple years of the hijacking. Otherwise, the rubber bands would have long since deteriorated. Geological evidence suggested the bills arrived at Tina Bar after 1974, the year of the Corps of Engineers dredging operation on that stretch of the river. Geologist Leonard Palmer of Portland State University found 2 distinct layers of sand and sediment between the clay deposited on the riverbank by the dredge and the sand layer in which the bills were buried, indicating that the bills arrived long after dredging had occurred and been completed. In late 2020, analysis of diatoms found on the bills suggests the bundles found at Tina Bar were not submerged in the river or buried dry at the time of the hijacking on November 71. Only diatoms that bloom during springtime were found, placing the date range that the money entered the water at least several months after the heist. In 1986, after protracted negotiations, the recovered bills were divided equally between Brian Ingram and Northwest Orient's insurer, Royal Globe Insurance. Ingram sold 15 of his bills at auction in 2008 for $37,000. As of the time of 2022, that would be $50,290 equivalent. The Columbia River ransom money remains the only confirmed physical evidence from the hijacking found outside the aircraft. During the heist, Cooper demanded and received 2 main chutes and 2 reserve chutes. 2 reserve chutes came from a local skydiving school, and the 2 main chutes were supplied by a local pilot, Norman Hayden. Earl Cosey, the parachute rigger, who packed all 4 parachutes brought to Cooper, described the 2 main chutes as emergency bailout chutes as opposed to sporting chutes that skydivers would use. Cosey further described the main chutes as being like military chutes because they were rigged to open immediately upon the ripcord being pulled, and were incapable of being steered. When the plane landed in Reno, FBI agent discovered two parachutes Cooper left behind. 1 reserve chute and 1 main chute. The reserve chute had been opened and the shroud lines had been cut out, but the main chute left behind was still intact. The unused chute was described by agents as a model NB6, Navy Backpack 6, and is on display at the Washington State Historical Society Museum. One of the 2 reserve chutes that Cooper was given was an unusable training chute intended to only be used for classroom demonstrations. According to Cosey, the reserve chute had a canopy inside of it that was sewn together so that skydiving students could get the feel of pulling a ripcord on a packed chute without the canopy actually deploying. Their non-functional reserve chute was not found in the aircraft when it landed in Reno, leading FBI to speculate that Cooper was not an experienced parachutist because someone with experience would have realized this reserve chute was a dummy chute. However, within days of the hijacking, it was revealed that neither of the parachute harnesses Cooper was given had the necessary D-rings required to attach reserve chutes. Although Cooper lacked the ability to attach this dummy chute to his main harness as a reserve parachute, it was not found in the plane. So what he did with it is unknown. Cosey speculated that Cooper removed the sewn together canopy and used the empty reserve container as an extra money bag, which that's what I'm leaning with as well. Tina Mucklow's testimony was in line with Cosey's speculations, stating that she recalled Cooper attempting to pack money inside a parachute container. In November of '78, a deer hunter found a 727's instruction placard for lowering the aft stairs. Okay? The placard was found near a logging road about 13 miles east of Castle Rock, Washington, north of Lake Merwin, but within Flight 305's basic flight path. Okay? With all of this craziness, it's a lot, man. Oh my God, my head's spinning. I'm sure you guys' head spinning too, huh? That's a lot of information. And I even cut it a little bit short. Okay? I'm not trying to cut you short of the information, but my God, this is a lot of research. You got to understand. Okay? And if you want a more in-depth look into this even further, you guys need to comment and let me know you want another episode of this. I'll make a part 2 of this. And we'll get deeper and deeper and deeper into it. I mean, this is probably one of the most profound and enigmatic cases of somebody doing anything like this on an airline ever. And the man was calm, cool, collective. It's like it didn't even faze this man. This dude was he might have been he was probably a cold-hearted killer. I'm going to say he may have been ex-special forces, something, black ops, who the heck knows? I don't. But I'm going to tell you right now, this man, the way his demeanor, his attitude, the way that he carried himself, the nuance of it, I'm going to say right now, this man, I don't know, he got some skill sets. I'm going to say that. And for them thinking, and for them foolishly thinking this man is inexperienced with these parachutes, I'm going to be honest with you. Shame on them. Shame on them. They're professionals, right? They're supposed to speculate any and all scenarios, period. In order to solve the case, you have to. You have to be objective. You have to think in every possible aspect. Why aren't they? And I'll be honest with you, at that time, the conception of all this stuff happened, and the 45 years that followed, I think that's the downfall of it. They weren't being objective. They weren't trying to be open-minded and thinking of other things, thinking outside of the box. That's how problems get solved. How many times has a problem been solved because people think outside of the box? Let's be honest. Let's be real with each other, man. Let's be 100% here. Okay? I want you guys to comment, like, subscribe. I want you to, I want to keep doing this stuff for you guys. I want to do it. I love doing it for me. And I'm going to probably keep doing it for me. I'm not doing this for monetary gain or anything like that. I'm not getting nothing from this. I'm getting the joy and the happiness of me doing this and being able to spread some knowledge to other people. Let's all try to do that. Let's all try to make this world a better place. Even if it's just the slightest little bit that you do. We can all do it. Let's all be positive, man. Let's live a happy life. Let's go on and laugh and, help each other out if we need it. You see somebody down along the road or something, they're down on their luck. Hey, throw them some change, throw them a quarter, throw them a dollar, throw them whatever you got. Anything helps that person. We're all in this game of life together. So let's act like it. Let's be good neighbors, good friends, good cousins, good brothers, good husbands and wives. Let's do that. Life's too short not to. That's a fact. Just trying to give you drop a little knowledge on you there before we cut out here. Anyhow, I digress. I hope you guys love this one because, man, I had fun working on this. It took some time. It was a bear. But I loved it because this story, it reads like a James Bond movie. For real. And they literally have movies about it. Look it up. You'll find one. And hopefully after you find out the stuff that I told you, you'll be able to pinpoint, if you watch one of those movies, you'll be able to pinpoint the BS that they got going on in it, if any. Okay? You'll be able to say whether it's accurate or not, for the most part. But anyways, I feel blessed. Every day's a blessing. We wake up, we get up, we move. Count our blessings. Don't overlook it. Live life to the fullest and do the best you can. That's what I'm doing right now. I'm trying to bring knowledge to you. Even if it's just a little bit. You might have knew everything about this. Hopefully there's one thing you didn't. Hopefully there's one thing you didn't. But everybody, I'm going to do all kinds of different types of episodes, okay? I know as of right now, this is the fifth episode, I think it is. I've done a lot of them in this type of format setting, all right? But you got to understand, I'm going to do all kinds of episodes. I mean, I'm going to do instructional videos on how to build survival equipment, on how to I'm planning on doing one on how to build a windmill. A personal windmill to help you in survival. I'm gonna try and do some on how to build survival cabins, on how to build different things. We'll get into that down the road. Okay, this is still a little early, but as I said, I still have to have time to grow to get better at this. And I'm hoping you guys are gonna be the reason why I get better, because you're gonna encourage me, you're gonna push me, you're gonna tell me what you want to hear, what you want to see. Because otherwise, I'm going to be lost in the dark. And I'm going to be grasping at straws. Saying, hey, man, what do I got to do? But I appreciate every one of you that watched this video. That means a lot to me. And I hope you continue to watch. Let's continue on this journey together. Me and my trading posters. I hope you all have a great time. And I'll see you on the next one. If you have any likes that you want, any preferences, I should say, that you want, let me know. I'm dead serious. I will read my comments. I will look through all this. And I really appreciate all you that watch. So please comment. Don't be shy. There's no wrong and right answers. There's no wrong and right comments. There's only your comment. What do you want to say? Do you want to say that this video was crap? Okay. Well, go ahead. It's freedom of speech. Say what's on your mind. You ain't going to offend me. Hey, let me tell you something. My skin's tough as nails. You know what I mean? I can handle it. And I got to appreciate everybody's point of view. Everybody's, whether I like it or not. But if you don't like what I'm doing, I hope that I can get to the point where you do. And I'll try to make it that way. So every one of you out there, thank you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for watching my videos. You have a great one. Until next time. Bye.